The morning of my wedding, I found my wedding dress shredded to pieces in the bridal suite. Delicate white lace lay scattered across the floor like fallen snow, and the pearl beading I'd hand-sewn was ripped apart, each tiny bead rolling away from me like tears. I stood there in my silk robe, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My name is Holly, and that was just the beginning of how my sister Samantha destroyed what should have been the happiest day of my life. "Oh my God, Holly!" Layla burst through the door, her bridesmaid dress swishing around her knees. "You need to see what's happening downstairs." I followed her down the grand staircase of the venue we'd spent months choosing. The whispers hit me before I saw anything else. Guests huddled in small groups, their faces a mix of shock and pity. My mother stood in the center of the room, her hand pressed against her mouth, while my father argued with someone from the catering company. "I'm so sorry, but we received a call cancelling the entire order," the caterer was saying. "It came from the bride's number." "That's impossible," I said, stepping forward. "I never—" "Holly." Brian's voice cut through the chaos. My fiancé stood by the entrance, his best man beside him. His face was ashen. "We need to talk, now." He led me to a quiet corner, his hands trembling as he pulled out his phone. "I've been getting these messages all morning, from different numbers, and screenshots of conversations." The screen showed dozens of texts, all containing screenshots of what looked like intimate conversations between me and my ex-boyfriend. Conversations that never happened, photos that were clearly edited, but they looked real enough to plant doubt. "Tell me these aren't real," Brian whispered. "Of course they're not real. Brian, you know me." I thought I did. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. But then Samantha showed me. My blood ran cold. "Samantha, what does my sister have to do with this?" "She came to me this morning, Holly. Said she couldn't keep quiet anymore. Showed me evidence of you, meeting him, planning to leave me after getting access to my accounts." The pieces started falling into place. The shredded dress, the cancelled catering, the perfectly timed revelation of fake messages, all orchestrated by my own sister. "Where is she?" I demanded, scanning the room. But Samantha was nowhere to be seen. "Holly," Layla appeared at my side, her phone in hand. "It's worse. Someone's posted all these accusations online. They're going viral in our social circle." The room started spinning. 200 guests, our families, friends, colleagues, all witness to this humiliation, all believing these lies. "Brian, please," I reached for his hand. "You know this isn't true. We've been together for 3 years. You know me." He pulled away, his eyes full of doubt. "I need time to think. I'm sorry, Holly, I can't do this today." I watched him walk away, his best man following close behind. The whispers grew louder. Phone cameras pointed in my direction. My mother approached, tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you tell me you were having doubts?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Mom, this is all fake. Can't you see? Samantha did this." "Don't blame your sister," she sighed. "She's only trying to protect the family from scandal." That's when I saw her. Samantha stood at the top of the stairs, wearing a concerned expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. Our gazes met, and for a split second, her mask slipped. The corner of her mouth twitched into a smirk before she quickly covered it with her hand. "I think we should start asking guests to leave," my father announced, his voice heavy with disappointment. I stood in the middle of the chaos, watching my perfect day crumble around me. Years of planning, destroyed in hours. My relationship, shattered by carefully crafted lies. My reputation, in tatters. Layla squeezed my hand. "What do you want to do?" I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. Through the tears threatening to fall, I looked up at Samantha one more time. She thought she'd broken me. She thought this was her moment of triumph. "I want everyone out," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "And then I want to start planning." "Planning what?" I turned to my best friend, a new resolve burning in my chest. "My comeback. Samantha thinks she's won, but she has no idea what she just started. This isn't over. Not by a long shot." 3 months after my ruined wedding, I sat across from Layla at our favorite coffee shop, spreading out business cards and brochures across the small table. "You're really serious about this wedding planning thing?" Layla stirred her latte, eyeing the materials skeptically. Most people would avoid anything wedding-related after what happened. Most people haven't had their sister destroy their wedding in spectacular fashion. I tapped one of the business cards. "Look, I already have my first client booked." "Through your mother's friend," Layla pointed out. "Are you sure you're ready?" The bell above the shop door chimed, and I instinctively ducked my head. Ever since that day, I'd developed a habit of avoiding eye contact in public places. The whispers had finally started to die down, but the humiliation still lingered. "I have to be ready," I said, straightening up. "I can't hide forever. Besides, who better to plan a wedding than someone who knows exactly how one can go wrong?" Layla's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and grimaced. "Speaking of wrong, Samantha just posted another vacation photo with Tyler. They look disgustingly happy." "Delete her from your social media," I said firmly. "I did it the day after the wedding." "Your mum keeps asking when you'll talk to her again." I gathered my papers into a neat pile. "Maybe when hell freezes over, or when she admits what she did, whichever comes first." The next morning, I stood in front of my first clients, a young couple who'd been engaged for 6 months. The bride, Jessica, clutched a wedding magazine while her fiancé, Marcus, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "So," I began, "tell me about your dream wedding." "Well," Jessica leaned forward, "I want something unique. Everyone does beach weddings or garden parties. I want people to remember our day." I fought back a bitter laugh. "Trust me, I know all about memorable weddings." "Oh," Jessica's eyes widened. Weren't you the one who now runs the most detail-oriented wedding planning service in the city?" I cut in smoothly. "Yes, that's me. And I can guarantee that every aspect of your wedding will be triple-checked and secured." 2 hours later, I had my first contract signed. As I walked to my car, my phone rang. It was Brian. My heart stuttered. We hadn't spoken since that day. "Hello?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Holly?" He sounded tired. I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything that happened." I leaned against my car, legs suddenly weak. "And? I should have trusted you, should have known better than to believe those messages. I've been looking into it, and there's evidence they were manipulated. I tried to tell you that 3 months ago." "I know." He paused. "I miss you, Holly." The words I'd dreamed of hearing for months, but instead of joy, I felt something else. Strength. "I'm sorry, Brian, but I can't go backward. You didn't trust me when it mattered most. I'm building something new now." That evening, I met with Layla at her apartment. She opened the door to find me grinning. "Okay, what happened? You look like you just won the lottery." I flopped onto her couch. "I signed my first clients and turned down Brian when he called to reconcile." "He called?" Layla sat down hard. "What did he say?" "That he should have trusted me. But you know what? In a weird way, I'm grateful for what happened. It showed me who really had my back." Layla handed me a glass of wine. "Speaking of having your back, your mom called me. Samantha's engaged to Tyler." The wine glass froze halfway to my lips. "Already?" "The wedding's in a year. Your mom wants you to be there." I set the glass down carefully. "Of course she does, because heaven forbid we don't pretend to be one big happy family. Are you going to go?" I stood up and walked to Layla's window, looking out at the city lights. Below, a wedding party spilled out of a restaurant, their laughter floating up to us. The bride's white dress glowed under the streetlights. "You know what?" I turned back to Layla. "I think I will, but not as the bitter, betrayed sister. I'm going to go as the best damn wedding planner this city has ever seen. By then, everyone will know my name for the right reasons." Layla raised her eyebrows. "That's either the healthiest or most terrifying response you could have given." I picked up my wine glass and smiled. "Why not both? To new beginnings?" "To new beginnings," Layla echoed. and to Karma being a patient friend. "Remember when Samantha cut up your favorite dress before your 8th grade dance?" Layla asked, helping me sort through old family photos. God, the pattern's been there all along. I picked up a photo of Samantha and me at that dance. Me in a hastily borrowed dress, her beaming in a designer gown. Mom always said I was being dramatic when I blamed her. "Speaking of your mom," Layla held up her phone, showing me a text. "She wants us both over for dinner tonight, says it's important." 6 hours later, we pulled up to my childhood home. Through the window, I could see my mother arranging flowers in the dining room. Her nervous habit. "We can still leave," Layla offered. "No, let's get this over with." Inside, my mother hugged me too tightly. "Holly, sweetheart, and Layla, thank you both for coming." "What's so important, Mom?" She fidgeted with her necklace. "Well, I thought we should talk about Samantha's engagement party next month. She wants you to—" "No." I cut her off. "Whatever it is, no. She wants you to be her maid of honor." The room went silent. Even the old grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. "Are you kidding me?" I laughed, but it came out harsh. "After what she did?" "Holly, she's your sister. She feels terrible about your wedding, but—" "Feels terrible? Has she admitted what she did? Has she apologized?" Mom's face crumpled. "She says there's nothing to admit, that you're imagining things." "Classic," Layla muttered. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Mom's eyes widened. "Oh, I should mention, Samantha and Tyler are joining us." Before I could react, I heard the front door open and Samantha's voice floating in. "Mom, sorry we're late." She appeared in the doorway, Tyler behind her. She wore an expensive-looking dress and a massive engagement ring that caught the light like a disco ball. "Holly!" She rushed forward as if to hug me. I stepped back. "Don't." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should give them space." "No need," Samantha said brightly. "Holly's just being dramatic, as usual." "Dramatic?" I felt my control slipping. "Was I being dramatic when you destroyed my wedding dress? When you faked those messages?" "See," Samantha turned to our mother. "She's still making up stories. Holly, I know you were stressed about the wedding, but blaming me for your cold feet is—" "Shut up." The words came out quiet but sharp. "Just shut up." "Girls," Mom pleaded, "please. Can't we move past this? Samantha wants you in her wedding party, Holly. It's a chance to heal." "A chance to what?" I stood up. "A chance for her to humiliate me again, to finish what she started." "Holly," Tyler stepped forward. "I know things are tense, but Samantha's told me how much she misses you." I looked at him, really looked at him. He seemed genuine, kind even, just like Brian had been. "Tyler, has she told you what really happened at my wedding?" Samantha's smile flickered. "There's nothing to tell. Holly got cold feet and—" My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "We need to talk. It's about Samantha. I have proof." I showed the message to Layla, whose eyes widened. "Well," I said, gathering my things, "this has been enlightening. Mom, I'm sorry, but I won't be in Samantha's wedding party. I won't be at her wedding at all." "You're just jealous," Samantha snapped, her perfect mask cracking. "You can't stand that I'm happy, that I'm getting married when your wedding fell apart." I turned to her slowly. "No, Samantha, I'm not jealous. I'm successful. I'm healing. And I'm done letting you gaslight me." "Holly," Tyler called as I reached the door. "Whatever happened between you two, can't you forgive her? For the family's sake." I looked back at my sister, at her expensive dress and her perfect makeup and her carefully constructed lies. Some things don't deserve forgiveness, Tyler. Some things need consequences. Outside, Layla grabbed my arm. "What did Brian say he has proof of?" I showed her the rest of the message. "Found the person who helped her fake those screenshots. They're willing to talk." "Holy shit," Layla breathed. "What are you going to do?" I watched through the window as Samantha comforted our crying mother, playing the role of the wounded, misunderstood sister perfectly. "I'm going to wait," I said. "Let her plan her perfect wedding. Let her think she's won. And then, and then, and then we'll see who's being dramatic. And that's how we saved the Anderson wedding after the venue flooded, I concluded, watching the young couple across my desk exchange impressed glances. No crisis is too big when you're prepared. My phone buzzed. Another 5-star review posted online. In 6 months, I'd become the city's go-to wedding planner for crisis management. Ironic, considering my own wedding disaster. After the clients left, Sawyer poked his head into my office. As one of the few mutual friends who'd stayed neutral during the fallout with Samantha, he'd recently started referring clients to me. "Hey, got a minute?" He closed the door behind him. "There's something you should know about Samantha's engagement." I gestured to the chair. "I'm listening." "Tyler's ex-girlfriend reached out to me, says Samantha started pursuing him while they were still together. Used some familiar tactics." My stomach dropped. "What kind of tactics?" "Fake messages, edited photos. Sound familiar?" Before I could respond, my phone rang. Brian's name flashed on the screen. "Sorry, I need to take this." I waited until Sawyer left. "Brian?" "I met with the guy," he said without preamble. "The one who helped Samantha fake those messages. He kept receipts, Holly. Everything." I gripped the edge of my desk. "Why is he coming forward now?" "Apparently, she never paid him the full amount she promised. He's bitter." A knock at my door interrupted us. Layla entered, waving an envelope. "You got your official invitation to the wedding of the year," she said sarcastically. "I'll call you back," I told Brian. Layla handed me the cream-colored envelope. Inside was an elaborate invitation with gold foil details. Classic Samantha, always having to outdo everyone. "Are you going to RSVP?" Layla asked. My phone pinged with a text from Sawyer. "Tyler's ex wants to meet, says there's more you should know." "Yes," I said, reaching for my phone. "I think I will." 2 days later, I sat across from Maria, Tyler's ex, in a quiet cafe. She looked nervous, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "I thought I was crazy," she said. "The messages seemed so real. Tyler swore he never sent them, but there they were, time-stamped and everything. Then I saw what happened at your wedding, and it clicked. Did you tell Tyler?" She shook her head. "He wouldn't believe me. Samantha had already convinced him I was unstable, jealous. Sound familiar?" My phone lit up with another text from Brian. "Meeting set with the tech guy tomorrow. You should be there." "Holly," Maria leaned forward. "There's something else. The timing of their engagement. It's not what everyone thinks." "What do you mean?" "They got engaged the week before your wedding. Samantha made Tyler keep it secret, said she didn't want to steal your thunder." I felt the blood drain from my face. She was engaged. When she destroyed my wedding, she wanted both spotlights, yours and hers, but she couldn't handle sharing the attention. Back at my office, I found Layla waiting with lunch. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, handing me a sandwich. "More like I've seen the truth." I filled her in on Maria's revelation. "That's sick," Layla muttered. "So what's your plan?" I pulled out Samantha's wedding invitation. "First, I'm going to RSVP yes. Then I'm meeting with Brian and this tech guy tomorrow. And then I'm going to plan the perfect wedding gift for my dear sister." My phone rang. Samantha's number. I put it on speaker. "Holly, you RSVP'd yes. Mum's going to be so happy. Wouldn't miss it for the world," I said sweetly. "I know we've had our differences, but this means so much to me. Maybe you could even help with some of the planning. You're so good at it now." I caught Layla's eye. She was making gagging motions. "Actually," I said, "I'd love to help. I've learned so much about what can go wrong at weddings, and how to prevent it." "Perfect. Let's have lunch tomorrow. Just us sisters." "Sorry, I have an important meeting tomorrow, but soon." After hanging up, Layla stared at me. "You're playing with fire." I picked up the invitation, running my finger over the embossed date. "No, I'm playing her game. And this time, I know all the rules." My phone buzzed again, a text from Maria. "Found the original messages, the ones she deleted. Still want to see them?" Yes, I typed back. Every single one. The pieces were falling into place. Samantha wanted a perfect wedding. I'd make sure she got exactly what she deserved. The tech guy, who introduced himself only as Jake, spread printouts across the coffee shop table. Brian sat beside me, his jaw clenching as he reviewed the evidence. These are the original message logs, Jake explained, pointing to timestamps. See how they don't match the screenshots Samantha distributed? That's because she used software to create fake conversations and backdate them. And you helped her do this? I asked. Jake shifted uncomfortably. She paid well, or was supposed to. Said it was just a prank between sisters. Some prank, Brian muttered. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Samantha's trying on wedding dresses today. Please come. She misses you. There's more, Jake said, pulling out his laptop. The email she sent to your caterers and vendors, cancelling services. I tracked the IP addresses, all from her home computer. Can you prove it was her specifically? Brian asked. Better. I have the original emails she sent me asking how to do it. A new message popped up, this time from Maria. Found something interesting about Tyler's company. Your sister's been busy. Before I could respond, the coffee shop door chimed. I looked up to see my mother walking in. Holly, I thought that was your car outside. She spotted Brian and froze. Oh, I didn't realize. Jake quickly gathered his papers. I'll email you everything, he whispered before slipping away. Mom, I stood up. What are you doing here? Looking for you. The bridal shop is just down the street. Samantha's trying on dresses and... I'm in a meeting. I cut her off, gesturing to Brian. Mom's eyes narrowed. Are you two... No, Brian said firmly. We're dealing with something else. Something about your other daughter. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out one of Jake's printouts. Maybe you should see this, Mom. Remember how you never believed me about Samantha? She took the paper hesitantly. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion, shock, denial, and finally, devastating realization. This can't be real, she whispered. It is. And there's more, so much more. Mum sank into a chair. Why would she do this? Because she's always been jealous, Brian said. Because she couldn't stand Holly being happy. My phone buzzed again. Maria had sent a document, financial records showing suspicious transfers from Tyler's company accounts, all traced back to Samantha. Mom, I said gently, there's something else you should know, about when Samantha really got engaged. 20 minutes later, my mother sat in stunned silence, tears rolling down her cheeks. All these years, she said finally, all the times you tried to tell me, I always defended her. You wanted to believe the best about your daughter. I have 2 daughters, she said sharply, and I failed to protect one of them. My phone lit up with a call from Sawyer. Holly, we have a problem. Samantha knows you're gathering evidence. She's trying to get ahead of the story. How? She's telling people you're having a breakdown, that you're obsessed with ruining her wedding because you're jealous. She's even talked to some of your clients. I felt the blood drain from my face. My clients? Check your business email. I pulled out my laptop, opened my inbox, and felt my stomach drop. 3 cancellations, all citing concerns about recent revelations. She's trying to destroy my business, I said numbly. Mom stood up suddenly. No, not this time. I'm going to that bridal shop right now. Mom, wait. I've waited long enough. It's time I stopped enabling her and started being a mother to both my daughters. After she left, Brian touched my hand. What are you going to do? I opened Maria's document about Tyler's company. I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. All of it. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Samantha herself. Heard you've been asking questions, little sister. Remember what happened last time you tried to stand up to me? Back off, or your business won't be the only thing you lose. I showed the message to Brian. His face hardened. She's threatening you now? No, I said, standing up. She's making her last mistake. She thinks she can still control the narrative, but she forgot something important. What's that? I gathered the evidence. a plan forming in my mind. I plan weddings for a living now. I know how to create moments people never forget. I texted Layla, "Get ready. It's time to plan Samantha's perfect day, every last detail." Her response came instantly. Should I be scared or excited? Both, I wrote back. Definitely both. She did what? I stared at my mother across her kitchen table, coffee forgotten between us. Threw a complete tantrum at the bridal shop, Mom said, rubbing her temples. When I confronted her about the evidence, she knocked over 3 wedding dresses and accused me of always loving you more. Classic deflection, Layla muttered from her spot by the counter. Tyler was there, Mom continued. He looked confused, started asking questions about what evidence we were talking about. My phone buzzed, another client cancellation. That made 5 now. She's systematically destroying everything I've built, I said, showing Mom the email. Just like she did with my wedding. The doorbell rang. Mom went to answer it, returning with Tyler behind her. "Holly," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Can we talk?" Layla straightened. "I'll stay." "It's okay," I told her. "Give us a minute." Once we were alone, Tyler paced the kitchen. "Samantha's been crying all night, says you're trying to ruin her wedding because you're jealous. But then your mom mentioned evidence, and Maria called me." "What did Maria tell you?" "That Samantha broke us up. That she used the same tactics she allegedly used at your wedding." He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to believe." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder with Jake's evidence. Believe this, 20 minutes later, Tyler sat with his head in his hands. The company accounts. I gave her access because she said she wanted to learn about finance. I trusted her. We all did. But why? Why would she do all this? Because she can't stand anyone else being happy, Mom said from the doorway. We hadn't heard her return. Because I spoiled her and excused her behavior until she became someone I don't recognize. Tyler's phone started ringing. Samantha's photo lighting up the screen. He declined the call. "The wedding's in 3 days," he said quietly. "I know. She's got everything planned perfectly. 300 guests, press coverage. She's been talking about it being the wedding of the year for months." Mom sat down heavily. "Tyler, what are you going to do?" Before he could answer, the front door burst open. Samantha stormed in, mascara streaked down her face. "You," she pointed at me. "You're poisoning everyone against me. First Mom, now Tyler." "No one's poisoning anyone," Tyler said. "We're just finally seeing the truth." "Truth?" She laughed hysterically. "The truth is, my sister's always been jealous of me. She can't stand that I'm getting the perfect wedding she couldn't have." "The wedding you made sure I couldn't have," I corrected quietly. "You have no proof." "Actually," Tyler held up his phone, "she has quite a lot of proof, including what you did with my company's money." Samantha's face went white. "I can explain." "Save it," Mom cut in. "I've spent years making excuses for you, Samantha. No more." "You're all against me." Samantha's voice rose to a shriek. "But the wedding's still happening. Everything's paid for. Everything's arranged. You can't stop it." "No one's trying to stop your wedding," I said, standing up. "In fact, I want it to happen exactly as planned." Something in my tone made her pause. "What does that mean?" "It means you're going to get the perfect wedding you deserve." "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm promising you something. You wanted all the attention. You'll get it. You wanted a memorable day. It will be unforgettable." Tyler stood up. "I need time to think. About everything." "Tyler, please." Samantha grabbed his arm. "Don't listen to them. Remember all our plans, our future." "Our future built on lies?" He gently removed her hand. "I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe." After Tyler left, Samantha turned to me, her mask completely gone. "You think you've won? I still have the upper hand. Your business is falling apart. Your reputation—" "My reputation will recover," I interrupted. "The truth has a way of doing that. The question is, will yours?" She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Mom sank into a chair. What happens now? I picked up my phone, opened my messages. Dozens of people, Jake, Maria, Brian, Sawyer, former clients Samantha had lied to, all waiting for my signal. Now, I said, we get ready for a wedding. Holly, Mum's voice was worried. What are you planning? I thought about all the years of Samantha's manipulations, all the lives she'd damaged, all the pain she'd caused. Justice, Mum. I'm planning justice. The grand ballroom buzzed with 300 of the city's elite. Samantha had spared no expense: crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough flowers to fill a greenhouse. She stood at the center of it all in her designer gown, basking in the attention. Tyler hadn't called off the wedding. Are you ready? Layla whispered, adjusting my bridesmaid's dress. Yes, I'd accepted the role, much to everyone's surprise, especially Samantha's. Everything's in place, I murmured back. Jake, she nodded toward the tech booth, ready with the video system. Maria, third row with the evidence files. Brian, by the bar with Tyler's company records. The wedding planner, not me, obviously, began herding people to their seats. Samantha caught my eye and smirked, probably thinking she'd won by having me stand here in her wedding party, diminished and defeated. The ceremony began. I watched Tyler's face as Samantha recited her vows, wondering if he could hear the insincerity in her voice. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I stayed silent. That wasn't part of the plan. During the reception, the MC announced it was time for the speeches. Samantha had strategically placed mine last, probably expecting me to embarrass myself. I approached the microphone, champagne glass in hand. The room fell silent. For those who don't know me, I'm Holly, Samantha's sister. I smiled at the crowd. And I'm a wedding planner. Samantha's smile flickered. In fact, I specialize in crisis management, making sure nothing goes wrong on the perfect day, making sure no one can sabotage a wedding. The room shifted uncomfortably. People knew about my failed wedding, but no one ever spoke of it. Samantha taught me that skill, actually. She showed me exactly how a wedding could be destroyed. The fake messages, the cancelled vendors, the orchestrated humiliation. Holly, Samantha warned from her seat. But today isn't about my wedding. It's about truth, about consequences. I nodded to Jake. The ballroom screens lit up with evidence, time-stamped messages showing Samantha's manipulation, financial records from Tyler's company, testimonies from people she'd hurt. No. Samantha lunged for the tech booth, but Brian was faster, blocking her path. Tyler, I continued, did you know Samantha was engaged to you when she destroyed my wedding? That she delayed announcing it so she could steal both moments? Tyler stood up slowly, his face ashen. Is this true? Of course not, Samantha shrieked. She's lying. Actually, my mother's voice rang out as she stood, we have proof of everything. Maria stepped forward, holding up her phone. Including what she did to me, Tyler. The same pattern, the same manipulation. The crowd murmured. Phones came out, recording everything. You want to talk about patterns? I continued. Let's talk about childhood. Every time I achieved something, something mysterious would happen to ruin it. My 8th grade dance dress. Destroyed. My college acceptance letter. Mysteriously lost until after the deadline. Stop it, Samantha whispered, but her voice had lost its power. But your biggest mistake? I turned to face her directly. Was threatening my business, because that gave me nothing left to lose. The screens now showed her recent messages to my clients, the orchestrated campaign to destroy my reputation. You see, I addressed the crowd, my sister wanted a memorable wedding, one people would talk about forever. Congratulations, Samantha. You got your wish. Tyler stood up. The company money? How much did you take? Tyler, please. Samantha reached for him, but he stepped back. I can't. He looked around the silent room, at the evidence still playing on the screens, at his bride's crumbling facade. I can't do this. He walked out. The crowd erupted in whispers. Samantha lunged at me, but security, which I'd quietly arranged, intercepted her. You ruined everything, she screamed. No, I said calmly. You did that all by yourself. I just made sure everyone saw the truth. Our mother approached, tears streaming down her face. Samantha, how could you? Mom, don't you see? She's always been your favorite. I just wanted… To hurt people? Mom shook her head. To destroy lives. That's not what I raised you to be. The guests began filing out, phones still recording, whispers growing louder. Samantha's perfect wedding had become exactly what she'd feared, a public humiliation. Holly, Layla touched my arm. We should go. I looked at my sister one last time. She stood alone in her expensive dress, mascara running, the remnants of her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Karma's not a punishment, Samantha, I said softly. It's a teacher. I hope you learn from this. As we left, I heard her collapse into sobs. But this time, there was no satisfaction in her tears, only a quiet sense of justice finally served. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the day's appointments. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Meeting with the lawyers today. Thanks for helping build the case. A knock at my door made me look up. My mother stood there, holding 2 coffee cups. Thought you might need this, she said, setting one down. Big day, 3 consultations and a venue walk through. I gestured to the chair. How's the house hunting going? Found a nice condo downtown, smaller, but… She trailed off, and I knew she was thinking about the empty rooms in our family home since Samantha had left town. Have you heard from her? Mum nodded slowly. She's in therapy. Actually therapy this time, not just saying she is. Her therapist reached out, wants to arrange a supervised conversation. And? I said yes, but I told them you get to decide if and when you're ready. Another knock. Layla poked her head in. Your 9 o'clock is here. Oh, hi, Mrs. G. I'll let you work, Mum stood, then hesitated. Holly, I'm sorry I didn't believe you all those years. I was so focused on keeping the peace that I didn't see the damage being done. Mom. No, let me finish. Watching you handle everything with such grace, even during the wedding. I've never been prouder. After she left, Layla helped me prepare for the consultation. Speaking of the wedding, have you seen the industry newsletter? Your business is booming since the story got out. Turns out being known for exposing wedding sabotage is good for business. I smiled wryly. Who knew? My phone buzzed again. Brian this time. Coffee later. Need your advice about something. Before I could respond, my clients arrived, a young couple with familiar anxiety in their eyes. We heard about what happened at your sister's wedding, the bride said immediately. That's why we chose you. We need someone who can spot trouble before it happens. That's exactly what we do here, I assured them. Tell me about your vision. As they described their plans, I noticed a small package on my desk that hadn't been there before. The return address made my heart skip. It was from Samantha. After the clients left, I opened it carefully. Inside was a small box and a letter. Dear Holly, my therapist says I should write to you, but words feel inadequate. I've spent weeks trying to understand why I did what I did. The jealousy, the need to win, the constant competition. It was all my own insecurity. I couldn't stand seeing you happy because I'd never learned how to be happy myself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am asking for a chance to show you who I'm trying to become. Inside the box is Mom's old charm bracelet, the one we used to fight over as kids. You should have it. You were always the stronger one. Samantha. The bracelet sparkled in the morning light, each charm holding a memory from our childhood. Before the competition, before the hurt. Layla found me staring at it. You okay? I think I am. I slipped the bracelet into my drawer. Ready for the venue walkthrough? Actually, she grinned, there's someone here to see you first. Brian walked in, looking nervous but determined. Sorry to drop by unannounced. I thought we were meeting for coffee later. We were, but… He pulled out a small velvet box. I couldn't wait. My heart stopped. Brian, Before you say anything, I know we have history. I know I failed you once. But watching you handle everything with such strength and dignity, I fell in love with you all over again. This time, I know exactly who you are. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. I don't need a big wedding, I just need you. I looked at Layla, who was filming everything on her phone, tears streaming down her face. At my mother, who had reappeared in the doorway. At the bracelet in my drawer, a reminder of how far I'd come. Yes, I said simply, but on one condition. Anything. We elope. He laughed, sliding the ring onto my finger. Deal. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from my mother to our family group chat, which still included Samantha. Family therapy session next week. Holly, no pressure, but there's a seat for you if you want it. I looked at the ring on my finger, at Brian's hopeful face, at the successful business I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Tell them I'll be there, I typed back. Some things are worth rebuilding.
Let me introduce my family. I'm Margaret Wilson, though everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 63 years old. After graduating from the University of Virginia, I worked as a branch manager at Chase Bank for many years before retiring a decade ago. These days, I find purpose in volunteering at First Baptist Church. My husband Thomas is 65. He's an engineer who studied at MIT and had a brilliant career at General Electric. Even now, he's meticulous and hardworking, spending his weekends at the Kingsmill Golf Club. Our son David is 35, a CTO at a tech company and a Stanford graduate. His wife Jennifer comes from a prominent Boston family. They've made their home in a lovely house within the same Kingsmill resort where we live. And then there's my treasure, my 8-year-old grandson Kyle. He's a third grader at Williamsburg Christian Academy, a smart boy who excels at swimming. My mother Mary, who passed away 2 years ago, was the founder of a successful local department store chain. She adored Kyle and left him a trust fund worth $70 million. We live a life of comfort in the upscale Kingsmill Resort near Williamsburg, Virginia. On a misty morning at Kingsmill Resort, the perfectly aligned colonial-style mansions stretch toward the sprawling green golf course. In our garden, the antique roses my mother cherished are blooming beautifully again this year. Grandma, what was the sermon about at church today? When I return from First Baptist Church, Kyle is always waiting at the door. The world reflected in his innocent eyes must surely be more beautiful than the one we adults see. Mother left such a large trust fund for his future. Mother's final words still echo in my ears. Maggie, I trust your family. Thomas and David will surely be good trustees. True to Mother's words, we want for nothing now. But sometimes, I feel a slight unease in this too perfect daily life. Like a single raindrop falling on a still lake, it disappears quickly, and yet. On a crisp July morning, I stand in the kitchen where the roses in the garden shimmer in the morning sun. The antique roses that Mother carefully tended are now under my care. The way the morning dew sparkles like jewels on the petals was Mother's favorite sight. Good morning, Maggie. Thomas appears with his newspaper, as usual. His meticulous nature hasn't changed since retirement. He's already preparing for his early morning round at Kingsmill Golf Club. Navy polo shirt, white pants, and the gold cufflinks mother gave him. His perfect appearance might be a point of pride from his MIT engineering days. I pour coffee into a small white cup and begin my devotional time. Prayer words quietly fill the room. This peaceful morning ritual is a precious habit inherited from Mother. Sitting in a deck chair by the pool with my Bible open, the morning sun reflects off the water's surface like scattered diamonds. The tranquility after completing my daily routine at First Baptist Church is comforting. Grandma. Kyle's energetic voice breaks the silence. He comes running with his new swimming goggles. My grandson, the most popular child in First Baptist Church's Sunday school, brightens up everyone around him. In his white polo shirt and khaki shorts, he looks like he stepped right out of a magazine. Kyle, did you eat your breakfast? Yes. Mom made her special pancakes. They were delicious with lots of blueberries and maple syrup. Jennifer always shows off her culinary skills during weekend breakfasts. Having grown up in a prestigious Boston family, her cooking is first class. Lately, her menus have become especially elaborate. But recently, something seems different about her. Those dark circles under her eyes worry me. Maggie, may I join you for the Whole Foods shopping trip this weekend? Jennifer places her hand on my shoulder from behind. The scent of her Chanel perfume mingles with the morning air. Of course. Your sense of style is wonderful. You're much better at choosing organic vegetables than I am. Thank you. Actually, David seems to be thinking a lot about Kyle's future lately, including the education fund and everything. Jennifer's voice trembles slightly during our casual conversation. Her hand tenses on my shoulder. That's natural, isn't it? He's our precious son. Yes, but sometimes, his intensity frightens me. What do you mean? Oh, it's nothing. Jennifer suddenly changes the subject and starts planning the weekend menu. There seemed to be a hint of panic in her gesture. Sunday at First Baptist Church. As hymns fill the air, we sit together as a family. Kyle's clear voice rings out like an angel's. The Virgin Mary painted on the church ceiling seems to smile down gently. During the fellowship time after service, we enjoy our usual Chick-fil-A lunch. Family smiles around the table, a familiar scene, yet something feels off. Hey, Kyle! David calls out to his son, holding a new video camera. The latest Sony model just arrived last week. Dad, are you filming again? Yes, I want to document your growth. Especially this summer, I want to capture lots of memories. Come on, look this way. Isn't this a bit excessive? Everyone. Thomas spreads a brochure on the table. The glossy pages display vibrant photos of Busch Gardens. How about a family trip to Busch Gardens this summer? Kyle's eyes light up at those words. But for a moment, I catch David and Jennifer exchanging glances. A dark shadow seems to cross their expressions. I agree. Let's go before it gets too hot. My words ease the family's expressions. Yet I can't shake the feeling that something lurks behind those smiles. On the drive to Kyle's swimming lesson, he suddenly says. Grandma, adults are strange sometimes. What do you mean? Mom and Dad really want to take photos and videos lately. But their smiles seem different. And I've seen Dad on the phone with someone twice in the middle of the night. The reflection of my grandson in the rearview mirror looks oddly mature. His observant nature, unusual for an 8-year-old, catches me off guard. That night, looking through photo albums in my bedroom, Mother's last words come back to me. Maggie, my final gift. It will surely bring happiness to your family. The photos in the album certainly show happiness. But now, I can't shake the feeling that some unseen shadow lurks behind these perfect smiles. Tomorrow will bring another happy morning, I want to believe. Yet why does my heart grow heavier by the moment? From the deck, I look up at the night sky where stars twinkle quietly. In our too perfect daily life, something is definitely beginning to change. Pulling into the parking lot of Patrick Henry Mall, the largest shopping center in the Hampton Roads area. The summer sun beats down on the lot filled with luxury vehicles. Today we're shopping for our upcoming Busch Gardens trip. Kyle, don't forget sunscreen. At my reminder, Jennifer hastily begins searching through her purse. Her Louis Vuitton bag contains several envelopes I've never seen before. Oh, documents? Yes, just insurance renewals and such. She quickly pushes the envelopes deeper into her bag. There's something hurried about her movement. Inside, the mall bustles with weekend activity. Kyle stops in front of the swim shop, examining new swimsuits. This blue one looks cool. It does. But maybe we should get a size larger. Jennifer's words give me pause. We've always bought Kyle's clothes to fit exactly, so why? Oh, David. Aren't you working? Unexpectedly, we run into my son at the mall. He's in an expensive suit, deep in conversation with an unfamiliar man. Upon seeing us, he quickly bows to his companion and says goodbye. Just a quick meeting. We have a client nearby. On a Sunday. That's demanding. Business never sleeps. David's response is cheerful, but tension shows in his expression. Over lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, we plan our Busch Gardens trip. Brochures spread across the table. Apollo's chariot has a height restriction, so Kyle probably can't ride. But Griffin should be fine. The safety measures are perfect, no need to worry. There's an unusual certainty in Thomas's voice. His typical engineer's caution seems somewhat diminished. Where should we take commemorative photos? The Ireland section would be nice. The background is beautiful. We should take videos too. As conversation flows, Kyle whispers in my ear. Grandma, aren't Mom and Dad obsessing about photos a lot? His words take my breath away. Indeed, lately they've been unusually fixated on preserving photos and videos. Almost as if they're trying to document evidence of something. Ah, right. David suddenly stands up. I need to take this call. Important business with the insurance company. He hurriedly leaves the table. Through the restaurant window, I can see him talking to the same man from earlier. Insurance? Yes, they've been calling frequently lately. About life insurance reviews and such. Jennifer's voice trembles. She downs her water in one gulp and excuses herself to touch up her makeup. Meanwhile, Kyle quietly eats his cheesecake. But his eyes carefully observe the adult's behavior. Grandma. Yes, dear. I'm excited about making summer memories. But everyone seems different. Not like usual. Those words weigh heavily on my heart. Indeed, the family atmosphere has been gradually changing lately. Though peaceful and happy on the surface, something ominous seems to lurk beneath. By the time we finished shopping and headed home, dusk was approaching. Kyle quickly fell asleep in the car. His sleeping face in the rearview mirror looks angelic. But David at the wheel and Jennifer in the passenger seat look pale, almost like different people. When we got home, they rushed to leave. It's late, why don't you stay over? No, we have things to take care of at home. David's voice shakes. Jennifer has already gotten into the car. Watching their departing backs, I wondered. Was my decision to leave that line the right one? But why do they both look so deathly pale? That night, I clutched Mother's heirloom ring and prayed. What would tomorrow bring us? I had no way of knowing the answer yet. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I went to make my usual coffee when a newspaper headline caught my eye. Emergency stop on Busch Gardens roller coaster, control system anomaly detected early, major disaster averted. The white mug slipped from my hands. The sound of shattering ceramic pierced the morning silence. Maggie. Thomas, reading the paper, turned around startled. His eyes held an emotion I'd never seen before. Fear? Or guilt? Just then, my phone rang. It was Bank of America. Mrs. Wilson, our routine audit has uncovered some concerns regarding your account. Could you come to the branch at your earliest convenience? The bank's call was ice cold. Yes, I'll come right away. As I started to prepare, I noticed Mother's old album that I'd been looking through last night, driven by anxiety. Flipping through the pages absently, I found a receipt tucked inside. In Mother's handwriting, Mary's Trust, beneficiary, Kyle Wilson. Dated just before her death. But the amount. This is different from what Mother told me. At the Bank of America branch, a young female banker led me to a private room. Mrs. Wilson, we'd like to confirm several points about the trust account activity over the past 6 months. When she turned the computer screen toward me, I saw an unbelievable transaction history. Massive transfers. International wire transfers. And an abnormal increase in insurance policies. Were you aware of all these transactions? I was speechless. All the transactions displayed had proper authorization stamps. But I hadn't known about any of them. Leaving the bank, I found myself heading to First Baptist Church. Children's voices drifted from the Sunday school classroom windows. Maggie. Mrs. Sarah, the pastor's wife, rushed over. It must have been difficult. I heard about yesterday. Yesterday? Yes, about David suddenly resigning from the church's financial management position. And something about a long overseas business trip. In that moment, all the pieces started falling into place. Returning home, I heard my husband's voice from the study. Despite the late hour, he was on the phone with someone. Yes, proceed as planned. The insurance money will definitely. No, yesterday was unexpected. But next time. The conversation suddenly stopped when he heard footsteps on the stairs. Looking at Mother's photo, I pulled old documents from the drawer. They contained the true records of Mother's trust. The public figure of $70 million was just the tip of the iceberg. Mother had an even larger fortune in Swiss banks. And those who knew this fact. I quickly opened my laptop and checked old saved emails. Mother's final message. Maggie, if you're reading this email, something must have happened. Actually, I made a certain decision. As I read through the screen, tears rolled down my cheeks. Why hadn't I noticed earlier? Kyle's innocent smile beamed from the photo frame. I could only pray that our adult greed and betrayal hadn't tainted those pure eyes. Outside the window, the moon was rising. Its light was quiet and sorrowful, like Mother's gaze. Tomorrow, I must make a decision. To prevent our family's collapse. And above all, to protect Kyle's future. In an interview room at the Williamsburg Police Department. Morning sunlight reflects off the coffee cup on the table. Mrs. Wilson, this is a serious matter. Detective Sarah Collins studies me from behind her glasses. Stacks of evidence documents I brought sit before her. Attempted insurance fraud. Misappropriation of trust funds. And an attempted accident. But it remained only an attempt. My voice shakes as I continue. Thanks to an 8-year-old child's intuition. Leaving the station, I headed straight to First Baptist Church. Though it wasn't Sunday, there was someone at the small church. Maggie. Pastor Michael was waiting in the prayer room. Your decision. Yes. I want to protect my family. But that won't be an easy path. I know. But. I take a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Judgment and forgiveness belong to God. But there are things I can do. Face the truth, and show the path to redemption. In our living room. The evening light filters through the heavy air. David hangs his head. Jennifer can't stop her tears. Thomas stares out the window, motionless. The company's debt kept growing. David's voice is hoarse. Failed investments, snowballing loans. Was it your idea? This plan? At my question, Jennifer looks up. It was mine. Her confession is quiet. My family's business in Boston went bankrupt, my parents vanished. Under the pressure, And I agreed. Thomas's voice resonates heavily. Retirement anxiety wouldn't go away. And our grandson's future. Greed drove us mad. What about Kyle? He knew nothing. David's voice trembles. Only a pure child's intuition stopped us. Silence dominates the room. The detective explained what happens next. I begin quietly. But there's still room for choice. A rehabilitation program. And establishing proper management of the trust funds. Maggie. Mother would say this: acknowledge mistakes, make amends, and be reborn. That's what a truly loving family does. Outside the window, birds are singing. Kyle, come in. The door opens. Kyle peeks in with a worried face. Why is everyone crying? We're sorry. Jennifer chokes up. We made mistakes, sweetie. Kyle slowly approaches his mother and wipes her cheeks with his small hands. It's okay. God will forgive you. The Sunday school teacher said so. His innocent words change the atmosphere in the room. Light always pierces darkness. That's the truth an 8-year-old child taught us. I stand up, clutching Mother's heirloom ring. The path ahead won't be smooth. But our rebirth begins with facing the truth. 1 year later, early summer. Roses bloom proudly in First Baptist Church's garden. Grandma, look. Kyle takes a photo of David holding his rehabilitation program completion certificate. He now teaches swimming to local children every weekend. Jennifer has started volunteering in the church's counseling department. Her experience has become a light for others carrying similar burdens. Maggie. Thomas gently places his hand on my shoulder. The old sincerity has returned to his eyes. Thank you for showing us the path to redemption back then. Mother Mary's trust funds are now under strict third-party management. It's a testament to the lesson we learned. Grandma, do you remember today's Bible verse? Kyle asks with an innocent smile. Yes. The light shines in the darkness. I look up at the sky. I feel like Mother is watching over us. Acknowledge mistakes, make amends, and be reborn. That's the path our family chose. And now, the light of a new dawn. March 4, 2024, 6:15 a.m. As the morning mist hung over Portland Station, Oregon, I was heading to my volunteer work at the library. I had left home a little earlier than usual because there were newly donated children's books waiting to be organized. The cold morning air stung my cheeks. On my way to the station, I remembered what my husband used to say when he was a police officer: trust your instincts. That morning, there was an unsettling feeling in the air. The morning birdsong, usually audible, was strangely quiet. As I approached the platform, my eyes caught an odd shadow. It was too early for the morning commute rush. At the edge of the platform, a small figure was huddled, standing still. That's strange. I unconsciously stopped in my tracks. Over 30 years of teaching experience had honed my instincts for detecting when something was wrong with a child. A boy wearing a dirty gray hoodie. A body so thin it hurt to look at his back. perhaps 10 years old. The cold March wind whipped at his worn jeans. His socks were full of holes, and his sneakers were worn down at the heels. As I got closer, my heart began to race. A familiar silhouette. But that was impossible. Because the boy in front of me had been officially declared dead a year ago, my grandson. "Grandma, I'm hungry." My body froze at the thin voice. A familiar voice. A slightly stuttering but gentle tone. I remembered how many times that voice had begged me, "Grandma, read this book to me." The boy slowly raised his face. A pale complexion. Under his sunken eyes were clear signs of exhaustion. His cheeks were hollow, his lips dry and cracked. And then, the decisive evidence. A small surgical scar behind his left ear. A reminder of the middle ear surgery he had when he was 3. I had applied ointment to that scar countless times. "Kaizen. Is it really you, Kaizen?" My voice was trembling. My grandson, who had been declared dead, was definitely here. My hands were shaking, and even my knees were wobbling. But this was no time to lose composure. I needed to get him to a safe place. Memories rushed back. 3 years ago, my son Tim went through a divorce with his then-wife Sarah. In what could be called child neglect, the court granted Tim custody of Kaizen. I cut back on my retirement library volunteer hours to support with childcare. Morning drop-offs and pickups, making lunches, helping with homework. But it wasn't a burden. Kaizen loved books. When I read to him, he would lean forward on my lap, listening intently. He never tired of dinosaur books in particular. When I started explaining, "You see, the Tyrannosaurus," he would listen with sparkling eyes. 2 years ago, Tim met Amy, a social worker. She had an 8-year-old son named Aiden. Intelligent and graceful Amy appeared before us like a savior. After marriage, she played the role of the perfect housewife, and both my son and I were touched by her efforts as a mother of 2 boys. But looking back, there were signs. Amy was overly eager to take photos of Kaizen. Especially that day at the Columbia River campsite, she kept taking pictures of Kaizen obsessively. "It's for growth records," she said. Her eyes were somewhat vacant then. In the evening, Kaizen disappeared, saying he was going to the bathroom. Sudden heavy rain. Desperate search. And 3 days later, death declaration without a body. Police processed it as an accidental death. The conclusion was that he had been swept away by the river. But my instincts told me differently. Amy's behavior was also strange. She showed no signs of distress. If anything, she was too calm. Without hesitation, I took Kaizen home. With trembling hands, I made warm stew and changed him into my late husband's old pajamas. When I helped him change, I noticed bruises on his back. Signs of abuse, perhaps. Kaizen silently spooned the food into his mouth. The scene was so surreal that I rubbed my eyes several times. Eventually, I steeled myself and picked up my phone. I dialed my son's number. After 3 rings, Tim answered. I could hear children's cheerful voices in the background. Mom? Why are you calling so early? Tim, listen. Kaizen is alive. He's at my house right now. On the other end of the line, my son responded in confusion. What? Mom, what are you talking about? He's right here, playing with Legos with Aiden. A chill ran down my spine. Kaizen holding a spoon in front of me. The Kaizen playing at my son's house. And Amy's unnatural photo taking. Her unnaturally calm demeanor. Everything started to connect. Amy's terrible secret was finally taking shape. I told my son, desperately trying to control my trembling voice. Tim, call the police. Right now. The Kaizen at your house isn't the real Kaizen. I'm beginning to understand what Amy has done. The hour until the police arrived felt like an eternity. After eating, Kaizen fell asleep on my sofa, exhausted. His sleeping face was as defenseless as a baby's, occasionally trembling slightly. Before calling the police, I decided I needed a trusted advisor. I contacted Mike Wilson, my husband's former colleague who now works as a private investigator. He would surely assess the situation calmly. Mary, I'm coming right over. Don't let anyone see him until then. Mike's voice carried its usual steadiness. 30 minutes later, Mike arrived at my house. He checked on the sleeping Kaizen and photographed his injuries and bruises. Then he gently woke Kaizen and began to talk to him softly. Kaizen, don't be scared. Would you tell us what happened? At first, Kaizen remained silent, looking frightened, but gradually began to speak. His testimony revealed something far more horrific than we had imagined. That day, when I went to use the bathroom, there was a strange man waiting. He said Mom asked him to. According to Kaizen's testimony, he had been kidnapped as part of a plan. Everything at the campsite had been meticulously prepared by Amy. They put me in a car and took me to an old building. The windows were high up, I couldn't see outside. But they gave me books. They told me to study. The place of confinement was an abandoned house in the suburbs. Minimal food and water. Educational books were provided, but going outside was strictly forbidden. Amy would come to check on him occasionally. 3 days ago, no one came anymore. I was so hungry. I removed the old boards from the window and escaped. Mike calmly took notes, nodding occasionally. His testimony is sufficiently detailed for a child, he whispered to me. Just then, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw 2 uniformed officers and 1 detective in plain clothes. Mike greeted them and briefly explained the situation. The police sprang into action. One began taking Kaizen's statement, another took mine. The plainclothes detective was on the phone requesting backup. Mrs. Mary, we've sent another team to your son's house. We'll secure suspect Amy. Just as I felt relief at those words, my cell phone rang. It was Tim. Mom. Amy. Amy ran away with Aiden. Right before the police arrived. A chill ran down my spine. This was the worst possible development. But that was just the beginning. Mike's laptop displayed shocking investigation results. Mary, I looked into Amy's background. She has a criminal record. 10 years ago, her previous husband's child. The article displayed on Mike's laptop was from a local Idaho newspaper 10 years ago. 8-year-old suspicious death, mother claims innocence. The woman in the photo was undoubtedly a younger Amy. Her name then was Amy Clark. That was her maiden name, Mike continued. Her stepchild died in an accident. Drowning. The insurance paid out in full. After that, her husband also died in an unexplained accident. I nearly collapsed into my chair. She had killed someone else's child, and even killed her own father. And now, the same thing to Kaizen. A young detective approached us. We've checked the station's security camera footage. Before Kaizen appeared, a black SUV was parked there. An adult male was driving. Likely an accomplice. Truth after truth emerged, making my head spin. But reality wouldn't wait. My phone rang again. It was Tim. Mom, we've located Amy's family home. 3 hours south of Portland. Her sister should be living there now. Tim, don't go alone. I cried out desperately. I heard that dangerous tone in my son's voice, the same strong sense of justice his father had. I know. I've already reported it to the police. I'm about to give my statement. His calm response gave me a little relief. Just then, Mike found new information. Mary, here's Amy's bank transaction history. There have been regular monthly withdrawals over the past year. The recipient is. He pointed at the screen. James Hunter. 3-time offender. Has served time for kidnapping and extortion. He must be the man who helped with the confinement, I realized. As we dug deeper, Amy's plan became clear. She had prepared everything before the marriage. Purchasing the abandoned house. Contacting accomplices. Even preparing insurance claim documents. Look at these papers, the detective handed me a document. Suspect Amy filed an insurance claim 1 week after the accident. Usually, claims without a body take months to process. She had prepared remarkably detailed documentation. It's as if. Yes, this is clearly a practiced method. Just then, the doorbell rang again. Mike checked the peephole and quickly opened the door. You must be Hunter. Give up. We've traced all your bank accounts. I held my breath. Standing at the door was the black SUV driver from the security camera footage. Amy's accomplice. The man raised his hands without resistance. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything, he said in a tired voice. That woman is insane. At first, I thought it was just insurance fraud. But it wasn't. She's collecting children. The room's atmosphere froze at those words. Aiden too. I mumbled. Aiden isn't her real child either. Hunter nodded heavily. 3 years ago, in winter. In Wyoming. Hunter's testimony revealed a truth far more horrific than we had imagined. Over the past 10 years, Amy had kidnapped at least 5 children. Her method was sophisticated, always combining death declarations with insurance fraud. She always targets wealthy single-parent families. Approaches them as a social worker, gets married, and then. The detective frowned while taking notes of Hunter's testimony. The children are confined and then transferred to other families, Hunter continued. Amy has clients. Wealthy couples struggling with infertility. They can't wait for legal adoption procedures. So. Wait, I was confused. Then, Aiden. He was the son of a Wyoming doctor. Michael Brown, who disappeared 3 years ago. Amy started raising him as Aiden. Memories flashed in my mind. Aiden being left-handed. The oddness Kaizen had pointed out several times. But in the photos, the child was right-handed. The police headquarters, which had become the investigation center, was being updated with new information by the minute. We've analyzed the surveillance camera footage, the young detective pointed to a large screen. Suspect Amy checked into a motel in Southern Oregon 3 hours ago. Aiden, no, Michael is with her. There are more accomplices, a veteran detective spread out a map. Bank transfer records over the past decade reveal at least 3 cooperating organizations. Creating forged birth certificates. Arranging fake adoptions. And money laundering. Suddenly, excitement swept through headquarters. Suspect vehicle spotted, the radio crackled. Heading south on Highway 5. A patrol officer identified it from a speeding violation. All units, form a perimeter, the commander shouted. Don't provoke them. There's a child in the vehicle. Tim and I watched intently as helicopter footage was displayed on the headquarters' large screen. Amy's white SUV weaved through traffic, pursued by police cars. Mom, Tim grabbed my hand. Amy completely fooled me. She seemed so gentle. Don't blame yourself, I placed my hand on my son's shoulder. We were all deceived by her. Suddenly, shocking footage appeared on the screen. Amy's car slammed on its brakes and pulled over to the shoulder. The driver's door opened, and Amy jumped out. In her hand was what appeared to be a gun. Don't shoot, the commander yelled into the radio. The child is. Then, an unexpected turn of events occurred. Aiden, no, Michael, leaped out of the passenger seat and tackled Amy. Stop it, the boy's cry was picked up by the patrol car's dash cam. I don't want to lie anymore. The gun fell from Amy's hand. The tactical unit moved in unison. In the chaos, I thought I saw a look of relief on Michael's face on the screen. At the moment of arrest, Amy was laughing. I was just trying to give them happy lives. Rescuing them from unhappy homes. Be quiet, I raised my voice unexpectedly. You destroyed these children's lives, their parents' lives, our lives. July 2024. In the waiting room of St. Luke's Hospital's Child Psychiatry Department. I was waiting for Kaizen to come out of his session. Weekly counseling. 4 months had passed. Grandma, Kaizen approached with a smile. His shoulders seemed a little more relaxed than before. Today I talked about dinosaurs. The doctor didn't know about Pachycephalosaurus, so I taught her about it. I suppressed the urge to hug him. The therapist had told me, please respect the distance where his heart feels safe. That's wonderful. I'm sure the doctor learned something new. I smiled gently. Your father's coming to pick us up. He should be here soon. The trial concluded a month ago. Amy received a 15-year prison sentence. More trials are pending. Her criminal organization was dismantled. Her accomplices were arrested one after another. What about Aiden? I mean, Michael? Kaizen asked. He has a psychological evaluation today. We can see him afterward. Michael Brown has reunited with his real parents. However, 3 years of memories don't fade easily. He still responds to the name Aiden. His real parents decided not to rush, choosing to wait for his heart to heal. The elevator opened, and Tim appeared. Sorry I'm late. The company meeting ran long. My son's face had changed. Gone was his former indecisive expression, replaced by the face of a responsible father. The divorce mediation was complete, and he now shares joint custody of Kaizen and Michael. Dad, are we still going to the park today? Yes, Michael will be there too. His mother just called. As we got into the car, I remembered when we first reunited with Michael at the shelter. I'm sorry, he said through tears. I was forced to take Kaizen's place, but actually, I wanted to meet Kaizen. I was so lonely all this time. At those words, Kaizen silently hugged Michael. An embrace of forgiveness more eloquent than words. Though not related by blood, they had truly become brothers. When we arrived at the park, Michael was waiting with his parents. Kaizen. Michael. The boys ran to each other and exchanged high fives. Their new way of greeting. 2 sets of parents watching over them. We exchanged quiet smiles. Mary, Michael's mother, called out to me. Seeing the children smile gives me hope. Yes, I nodded. The wounds won't heal easily. But we have time. In the twilight at the park, the 2 boys began playing tag. Their laughter dissolved gently into the sky. One spring afternoon in 2025 at the library. While shelving newly arrived picture books, I reflected on the year that had passed since that day. Mary, my colleague Janet called out. Another interview request. This time it's for a national network documentary. I quietly shook my head. After the incident, our experience was repeatedly featured in the media as a warning about a new type of kidnapping called ghost children. It led to the discovery of similar cases. Human trafficking disguised as adoption. Staged accidental deaths. Tragedies born from twisted love. I'll decline the interview. The children need a normal life now. From the library's large windows, I could see the schoolyard. Kaizen and Michael often stop by after school. They both started attending the same elementary school. Thanks to the principal's consideration, they were placed in the same class. Grandma. A familiar voice rang out. I turned to find Kaizen and Michael standing there, both in their school uniforms. Michael's name tag read Brown. He was gradually reclaiming his original identity. Are there any new books? Yes, there's a new dinosaur encyclopedia. And I pulled a book from the shelf. This one too. The cover read, Stories for Healing Hearts. It was a picture book written by a child psychologist. Following the incident, many experts published books about children's emotional care. I was involved as a supervisor. I want to show this to our teacher, Michael said. Their homeroom teacher understands their past. She doesn't give them special treatment but gently supports them when needed. Oh, Dad's here. Kaizen pointed out the window. Tim was parking his car. He now volunteers on weekends at an NPO preventing child trafficking. Michael, your parents are here too. The Browns' car had arrived as well. The two sets of parents had designated every Friday as Family Day. Picnics in the park, movie watching, normal family happiness. Grandma, are you coming too? Yes, in a little while. I pulled out some documents, copies of Amy's trial records. Her sentence was finalized. Life imprisonment. Further investigations continue into the facilities that overlooked her crimes and the people who helped with the deception. Mike Wilson is now helping investigate similar cases across the country. His work has influenced the creation of new legislation, the Ghost Children Prevention Act. Adoption screening has become more stringent, and the process for declaring deaths has been revised. My phone vibrates, a reminder for psychological counseling. Though now only monthly, the sessions with the two boys continue. Trauma doesn't disappear easily. But they have allies. Family, friends, and professionals. Mary, Janet called out. Have you thought about starting a new reading group? For children dealing with trauma. Her suggestion warmed my heart. What I learned this past year was that connections with others are the most powerful medicine for wounded hearts. Outside, cherry blossoms were dancing, and children's laughter echoed. I'm ready, I picked up my bag. Let's go. The breeze of a new season gently caressed my cheek. I'm Haven Burt, 62 years old. I was dragging my tired body home after finishing my part-time shift at Macy's, a long-established department store in Boston. Despite it being mid-June, this summer is harsher than usual. The heat rising from the asphalt makes the air shimmer, giving me the illusion of being in a desert. As I parked my car in the driveway, I noticed something was off. My daughter Shona's car was parked in an unusual spot. Moreover, the windows seemed foggy. My heart started racing. Shona. I called out as I approached the car. No response. As I cupped my hands around the window to peer inside, I felt my breath catch in my throat. Oh no! Shona and my 3-month-old granddaughter Dina were motionless inside the car. They were both drenched in sweat. Shona's face was bright red, and Dina's eyes were closed as if she had cried herself to sleep. I immediately tried to open the car door, but it was locked. Shona! Dina! I screamed desperately. I could hear the tremor in my voice. Shona finally opened her eyes. In a faint voice, she whispered, "Neil." "Dad." Before losing consciousness again, I hurriedly dialed 911. I never thought the emergency call training I took last year at the local community center would come in handy. Guided by the operator's calm voice, I explained the situation. "Yes, I'm a 62-year-old woman. My daughter and granddaughter are trapped in a car. They're unconscious. It might be heat stroke. Yes, 127 Maple Street, Brookline." Following the operator's instructions, I broke the car window to get inside. I rescued the two from the car that had turned into a hellish inferno and moved them to the shade. Shona's skin was hot, and her pulse was rapid. Dina was making faint crying sounds. While wiping their bodies with cold towels, I waited for the ambulance. "It's okay, Shona. Dina. You're safe now," I kept saying, though it felt like I was reassuring myself. The ambulance siren was approaching. My mind was in chaos, swirling with questions. Why were Shona and Dina in this state? Where was Neil? And what did Shona mean by "Dad"? My husband Frank had passed away 3 years ago. The paramedics arrived and loaded Shona and Dina onto stretchers. I climbed into the ambulance to accompany them. As the vehicle started moving, I gazed at the pale faces of my daughter and granddaughter, feeling a premonition of the storm to come. As I fastened my seatbelt, I suddenly noticed something. There seemed to be bruises on Shona's arm. What could this mean? As questions multiplied in my mind, the ambulance rushed towards the hospital. It looked like a long night was ahead of me. The next morning, I was pacing up and down the hospital corridor, trying to calm my restless feelings. The white walls and the smell of disinfectant made the gravity of the situation unavoidable. Shona and Dina were receiving treatment in the intensive care unit. The doctors were addressing the symptoms of heatstroke, but they hadn't given me a detailed explanation yet. "Mrs. Burt?" A voice called out. I turned to see a detective from the Boston Police Department standing there. "I'm Alex Johnson. May I ask you about the situation?" We moved to the hospital cafeteria and sat down. Detective Johnson seemed to be in his mid-40s. He had kind eyes, but I could sense a sharp observational skill behind them. "How are your daughter and the baby doing?" Detective Johnson inquired. "The doctors say they both have severe heatstroke," I answered. "Fortunately, they were found early, so their lives aren't in danger, but..." Detective Johnson nodded. "Do you have any idea about your family? Is there a possibility someone was threatening Shona?" I shook my head as I answered. "No, That's impossible. I started to say, but then remembered the recent changes in Shona's behavior. Come to think of it, she had become rather reclusive lately. She even started avoiding phone calls. When did these changes start? The detective asked sharply. Let's see, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I thought maybe there was some trouble between her and her husband Neil, but I stumbled over my words. Actually, I saw bruises on Shona's arm in the ambulance. Detective Johnson's expression tightened. There's a possibility of domestic violence. Do you know Neil's whereabouts? I don't know. He should be at work normally, but I took out my cell phone and checked the call history. There's been no contact from Neil either. Where does he work? State Street Corporation. He works in finance. Detective Johnson took notes. I'll look into it. Mrs. Burt, is there anything else that concerned you about your daughter's behavior recently? I thought for a moment. Now that you mention it, last weekend, Shona suddenly started talking about childhood memories. Especially about Frank, my late husband. Frank? He passed away 3 years ago. Heart attack. As I said this, I felt a tightness in my chest. Shona was always close to her father, so Frank's death was a big shock to her. Just then, a nurse hurried over. Mrs. Burt, your daughter has regained consciousness. On the way to the intensive care unit, Detective Johnson said to me, if you find out anything, please contact me immediately. Here's my card. As I approached Shona's bed, my daughter looked up at me with teary eyes. Mom. She called out in a weak voice. Shona, it's okay. You're safe now. I clasped her hand tightly. Shona's hand was cold and trembling. Neil and Hector were. Shona's voice quivered. They were threatening me. Hector. Who's that? I couldn't hide my agitation. Shona broke down in tears. Neil's debt collector. Our savings. A nurse came in and said, the patient needs rest. I kissed my daughter's forehead and left the room. Standing in the hallway, I leaned against the wall. My mind was in turmoil. Neil had debts. Who was Hector? Why were they threatening Shona? And why did Shona say, Dad, in the car? Taking a deep breath, I took out my cell phone. I had to call Detective Johnson. And contact Neil's workplace too. The only way to reveal the truth was to solve one mystery at a time. As I pressed the dial on my cell phone, I steeled my resolve. I won't give up until I uncover the truth to protect my family. Even if it means discovering a side of my daughter I never knew existed. The summer sun reflected blindingly off the glass windows of the high-rise buildings in Boston's financial district. I was standing in the lobby of State Street Corporation, where my son-in-law Neil worked. I had barely slept last night. Although Shona and Dina's conditions had stabilized, they were still in the intensive care unit. And Neil's whereabouts remained unknown. Mrs. Burt. The receptionist called out to me. I'm sorry, but Neil hasn't been in the office since yesterday. Oh no. I couldn't help but exclaim. Could I speak with his supervisor? After a while, a middle-aged man appeared. I'm Mike Donovan. I'm Neil's supervisor, but has something happened? I was led to an office where I explained the situation. Mr. Donovan's expression clouded over. Actually, Neil has had some recent problems, Mr. Donovan said. Financial troubles, and the company's funds. You mean embezzlement? Mr. Donovan nodded. It came to light last week. Neil apologized and promised to pay it back. But he's been missing since yesterday. My mind was in turmoil. Neil, why? And what about his connection to this Hector Shona mentioned? Could I see Neil's desk? Neil's desk was neat and tidy. But when I opened the drawer, I found an unfamiliar business card. Hector Ramirez, financial consultant. My chest tightened. Was this the Hector Shona had mentioned? As I was leaving, Mr. Donovan stopped me. Mrs. Burt, I'd like to keep this confidential, but Neil had recently become close to a colleague. A woman named Laura King. New questions arose. Was Neil having an affair too? When I returned home, there was an unfamiliar envelope in the mailbox. The sender was marked HR. Inside were copies of Neil and Shona's bank account statements. And a note. $500,000 by tomorrow. Or else. My hands trembled. Was this a threat from Hector? But why Shona's account too? I opened my computer and searched for poker stars. Online casino sites came up. Had Neil gotten into gambling? Just then, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Haven. A male voice. This is Hector Ramirez. I'm a friend of your son-in-law. I felt a chill run down my spine. Are you the one who threatened Shona? Threatened? No, that's not it. Hector's voice lowered. It seems Neil hasn't told you everything. Actually. At that moment, another call came in. It was from Detective Johnson. Mrs. Burt, we found Neil's location. He's at a motel in Cape Cod. We're heading there now. My mind was in chaos. Neil's embezzlement, Hector's threats, and his relationship with an unknown woman. Everything seemed connected yet disconnected. I gripped my cell phone and made a decision. Detective, I'm coming too. To uncover the truth, I had to meet Neil face to face. Even if it meant seeing a side of my son-in-law I never knew existed. The sea breeze carried the scent of salt. The smell that would normally be pleasant now only tightened my chest. Detective Johnson and I arrived at the Seaside Motel in Cape Cod. Standing in front of the weathered building, the detective turned to me. Mrs. Burt, it might be dangerous to go inside. Please wait here. But I shook my head. No, I'm going with you. He's my son-in-law. I need to see him. The detective hesitated but finally agreed. All right. but follow my instructions no matter what happens. We knocked on the door of the room. My heart was pounding. Neil? Are you in there? After a moment, there was a faint sound. Then, the door opened timidly. Neil's appearance was far from the Neil I knew. His beard was unkempt, his eyes bloodshot, and his clothes were wrinkled. Haven. His voice was trembling. Why? Neil, what happened? I asked as I entered the room. Shona and Dina are in the hospital. Did you lock them in the car? Neil turned his face away. No, that's not. Detective Johnson quietly entered the room. Mr. Burt, can you explain the situation? Neil collapsed into a chair, covering his face with his hands. It's over. Neil, talk to me. I sat next to him. What happened? He took a deep breath and slowly began to speak. Last winter, I made a mistake at work and caused a big loss. I was scared of getting fired, so I used company funds to cover it up. Embezzlement. My voice was cold. Neil nodded. But that wasn't enough. I got into online gambling. A site called PokerStars. Is that where you met Hector? Yes. Tears welled up in Neil's eyes. Hector was just a fellow player at first. But as my debts grew. So Hector threatened you? Neil shook his head. No. Hector, he was trying to help me. But when I couldn't pay him back. So you took Shona's savings. Anger welled up inside me. Hector didn't know. I did it on my own. Neil broke down crying. When I told Shona, she said she'd report it to the police. I panicked. So you locked her in the car? Detective Johnson asked sharply. Neil nodded silently. But why Dina too? My voice shook. Shona, she got into the car holding Dina. Neil stumbled over his words. I. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Detective Johnson carefully opened it. Standing there was Laura. Neil exclaimed in surprise. A young woman entered the room. Neil, are you okay? I heard the police were moving. You're Neil's colleague. I stared at her. Laura looked confused. Yes, but not just a colleague. Laura, be quiet. Neil shouted. Detective Johnson intervened. Everyone, please calm down. Mr. Burt, Miss King, you'll both need to come to the station. I stood there, dumbfounded. Neil's confession, and Laura's appearance. The truth was still not clear. Neil looked at me. Haven. I'm sorry. I'll tell you everything. But please meet with Hector, he really. Before he could finish, Detective Johnson led Neil away. Left alone in the room, I stared out at the sea. The waves came in and receded. Just like the answers that seemed to approach and then retreat in my mind. Meeting Hector. That might be the key to solving all these mysteries. As I got into Detective Johnson's car, I renewed my determination to accept the truth and then move forward. That's the only thing I can do now. The commotion of Faneuil Hall could be heard in the distance. In the shadow of the historic building, I stood with Detective Johnson in front of an old bar. The sign read, "Old Ironsides." "Hector Ramirez should be in here," Detective Johnson said quietly. "Mrs. Burt, it's dangerous to go inside. Please wait here." But I shook my head. "No, I'm going with you. We won't know the truth unless I meet Hector." The detective hesitated but finally agreed. "All right. But follow my instructions no matter what happens." The bar was dimly lit, with the smell of cigarettes hanging in the air. The bartender eyed us suspiciously from behind the counter. "Where's Hector Ramirez?" Detective Johnson asked in a quiet but authoritative voice. The bartender pointed to a booth in the back. There sat a middle-aged man. As we approached, the man looked up. "Mrs. Haven Burt, I presume. It's an honor to meet you." Hector's voice was softer than I had heard on the phone. However, there was a sharp light in his eyes. "You're the one who threatened my daughter," I said in a trembling voice. Hector shook his head. "No, that's not true. I was only trying to help Neil." Detective Johnson stepped in. "Mr. Hector Ramirez, you're under arrest on suspicion of extortion against Neil Burt." "Wait, please," Hector said calmly. "I'll tell you everything. It's clear that Neil hasn't told you the whole truth." Detective Johnson and I exchanged glances. Hector took a deep breath and began to speak. "I'm a counselor for gambling addicts. I find people with problems on sites like PokerStars and try to support them. Neil was one of them." "But you threatened him, didn't you?" I pressed. "No," Hector shook his head. "I was helping him repay his debts. We had set up a plan for him to pay back little by little from his salary." But, Detective Johnson prompted. "I found out that Neil had embezzled money from his company. And his colleague, Laura King, knew about it too." "Laura?" I exclaimed in surprise. Hector nodded. "Laura was blackmailing Neil. She demanded half of his salary in exchange for keeping quiet about his fraud." "No way." I was at a loss for words. "Neil was cornered," Hector continued. "He tried to access his wife's savings. I tried to stop him. But Neil didn't listen." Detective Johnson finished the sentence. Hector nodded sadly. "Yes. And then he tried to threaten his wife. I was trying to prevent that." In my mind, the pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together. "So that's why you sent that memo?" "Yes," Hector said. "It was to urge Neil to tell the truth. But he panicked and—" Detective Johnson stood up. "Mr. Ramirez, I'd like you to come to the station to discuss this in more detail." Hector nodded compliantly. "Of course. I'll tell you everything." As we were leaving the bar, I asked Hector, "Why did you try so hard to help Neil?" Hector looked at me with sad eyes. I once had a son like Neil. He took his own life. I didn't want to see the same tragedy happen again. His words made my chest tighten. As we stepped outside, the hustle and bustle of Boston enveloped us. The bell of Faneuil Hall rang, reminding us of the weight of history. The truth was coming to light. But this wasn't the end. Neil, Shona, and little Dina. The future of our family was still uncertain. As I got into Detective Johnson's car, I steeled my resolve to accept the truth and move forward. That's the only thing I can do now. The morning air of September carried a hint of autumn. I was in my kitchen, making coffee while gazing out the window. The leaves on the trees were starting to change color. The season of change. Just like our family. 2.5 months had passed since that day. Neil had been indicted for embezzlement and attempted extortion, and was currently on trial. Laura had also been arrested as an accomplice. Hector was cooperating as a witness and continuing his support activities for gambling addicts. Shona and Dina had fully recovered and were now living with me. I'm constantly amazed by my daughter's strength. She had started attending psychological counseling with support from the Massachusetts Office of Victim Assistance. Mom, you have that YWCA meeting this afternoon, right? Shona came down the stairs, holding the baby. Yes, that's right, I smiled. I'm looking forward to volunteering for domestic violence victim support. Shona smiled back gently. Mom, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. I hugged my daughter, cutting off her words. Of course. That's what family is for. Dina let out a small laugh. Her innocent smile gave me hope. In the afternoon, I headed to YWCA Boston. As I entered the building, I saw women of various ages and races gathered. Each of them carried their own story. Hello, everyone, Sarah, the leader, called out. Today, we have a new member joining us. Haven, could you please introduce yourself? I took a deep breath and stepped forward. Hello. I'm Haven Burt, my voice trembled slightly. My family also experienced domestic violence. But we've overcome it, and now I'm here. The participants looked at me with warm eyes. I want to turn this painful experience into strength, I continued. If I can be of help to someone. As I struggled for words, Sarah gently placed her hand on mine. Haven, your experience will surely be a beacon of hope for many people. After the meeting, on my way home, I looked up at the sky. The setting sun was peeking through gaps in the clouds. Life is unpredictable. Sometimes it's cruel and unreasonable. But we have to keep moving forward. For our family. And for ourselves. When I arrived home, Shona and Dina were there to greet me. Our small home. But filled with love. Welcome back, Mom, Shona said. How was it today? I hugged my daughter and granddaughter. It was wonderful. It was a day of new beginnings. Outside the window, the sun was setting. Tomorrow, a new morning will come. And we will move forward, one step at a time, but surely. That's our story. A story. My name is Jewel. I'm a 62-year-old single mother, working part-time now. I'm up and about before the sun rises. Today, I have an early morning shift at Walmart. Good morning, Jewel. My colleague Sarah greets me with a smile. I smile back as I head to the cash register. This job is tough, but I'd do anything for my grandson Tommy. As I ring up items and bag groceries, I chat with the regular customers. This job means more than just a paycheck. It's a precious place where I feel connected to people. After my shift, I hurry to my son Daryl's house to look after 3-year-old Tommy. Grandma. I hear Tommy's little voice. He can't see, but he's learned to recognize my footsteps. Tommy, Grandma's here, I say, hugging him and stroking his soft hair. This child's smile is my reason for living. Daryl and Tommy's mother, Mel, always seem busy. I'm sure the time I spend taking care of Tommy is a valuable break for them. Mom, thank you, Daryl says with a tired face. Of course, we're family, I reply. But lately, I've been a bit worried about Daryl and Mel. As I play with Tommy, I realize the importance of family bonds. It's hard having a grandson who's lost his sight, but this child's presence enriches my life. In the evening, I return to my apartment. It's a small room, but it's a comfortable space for me. I turn on the TV and prepare for tomorrow's work. Tomorrow, I'll be working at Target. It's a busy life, but this is what gives me purpose. As I lie in bed, I think about my family. Tommy's future, Daryl and Mel's relationship. There's no end to my worries, but I'm sure we'll overcome them. Because we're family. Believing this, I close my eyes. Another new day will begin tomorrow. I still clearly remember the day my son Daryl decided to get married. Mom, I want to introduce you to her, Daryl said, his voice mixed with excitement and anxiety. That day, I met Mel for the first time. She was beautiful, with a sophisticated air about her. Nice to meet you, Jewel. I've heard so much about you from Daryl, Mel said with a smile, but it felt somewhat calculated. Does this woman really care for Daryl? When the wedding preparations began, Mel insisted on a luxury brand dress and an extravagant venue. Her family is wealthy, Daryl said. They're covering all the expenses for the ceremony. Is that really true? Something feels off. On the wedding day, Mel's parents were nowhere to be seen. They couldn't make it due to work, Mel made a light excuse. My sense of unease was right on the mark. Later, we found out that Mel's wealthy family background was a lie. She had been deceiving us about her origins. A year after their marriage, Tommy was born. When I held that tiny baby, my heart was filled with joy. Congratulations, Daryl, Mel, I said, tears in my eyes. However, that joy didn't last long. When Tommy was 6 months old, we found out there was a problem with his eyesight. It's a congenital disorder, the doctor explained. There's a high possibility he'll lose his sight completely. When we heard those words, our family's expressions froze. What should we do? Daryl murmured. Mel remained silent, staring at the baby. What about this child's future? What can we do? The days that followed were a constant stream of hospital visits. High medical costs, special care, anxiety about the future, everything seemed to be crushing us. Mom, what should we do? Daryl's voice was filled with despair. I hugged his shoulders and said firmly, "It's okay. We'll get through this as a family." However, contrary to those words, anxiety was swirling in my heart too. Mel's attitude was gradually growing colder, and cracks were beginning to form in her relationship with Daryl. What will become of our family? As I held Tommy's tiny hand, I steeled my resolve. No matter what happens, I will protect this child and make him happy. That became my mission. The shape of our family was changing, and new trials were waiting for us. But I didn't know yet. This resolution would soon greatly change our lives. After Tommy's visual impairment was discovered, our family's life changed completely. Faced with high medical costs and the need for special care, Daryl's household fell into financial difficulties. Mom, I'm really sorry, but... Daryl's voice trembled. He bowed his head and asked me for financial assistance. I understand. I'll do whatever I can, I answered without hesitation. And from that day, my financial support for Daryl's family began. I started giving them most of my monthly salary. While cutting back on my own living expenses, I desperately tried to set aside as much money as possible for my grandson's future. Jewel, I don't know what we would have done without your help. Mel's words were filled with gratitude, but somehow they felt superficial. Is she really grateful? One day, I came across information about disability benefits for children. If we used the government support system, part of the costs for Tommy's care should be covered. Daryl, have you applied for Tommy's disability benefits? I asked, but Daryl showed a slightly confused expression. Oh, that. Mel is handling the paperwork, he said. However, I didn't hear any concrete progress after that. That's strange. Why aren't they rushing? A small sense of unease began to grow within me. Despite my support, there seemed to be no sign of improvement in Daryl's household finances. Did you buy a new outfit? I asked one day, noticing the expensive-looking blouse Mel was wearing. Oh, this? I got it on sale, Mel answered lightly, but there was a hint of guilt in her attitude. She's not telling the truth. I was also worried about Tommy's condition. He was losing weight day by day and becoming less energetic. Tommy, are you okay? Is there anything you want to tell Grandma? I asked gently, but he just shook his head silently. Did something happen to this child? At night, when I returned to my apartment alone, I pondered deeply about this situation. Several months had passed since I started providing support, but the situation seemed to be getting worse rather than better. Is my support really helping? Or Various questions swirled in my head. Daryl's debts, Mel's attitude, Tommy's condition. Everything seemed unnatural. I might be missing something important. I made up my mind. I needed to investigate this situation more closely. To protect my family, especially Tommy, I needed to know the truth. That night, I couldn't sleep. As I thought about my actions for tomorrow, I prayed in my heart. God, please protect my family. And please give me the strength to see the truth. That day, my life changed forever. For 3 days, the lights in Daryl's house hadn't been on. They weren't answering their phones. Anxiety gripped my chest. Something's wrong. I need to check. With trembling hands clutching my car keys, I headed to Daryl's house. The neighborhood's silence felt eerie. Standing at the front door, I could hear faint crying from inside. Tommy. There was no answer when I knocked. In panic and fear, I found myself shouting. Daryl. Mel. Is anyone there? But all I got in response was weak crying. I can't wait any longer. I made a decision. Using the spare key hidden nearby, I opened the door. The house was dark, and a strange odor hung in the air. Tommy. It's Grandma, I called out. Guided by the crying, I made my way to the living room. What I saw there took my breath away. Tommy was crucified on a cross. God, is this real? A nightmare? His small, emaciated body. Trembling hands and feet. Tears flowing from his blindfolded face. Grandma. Please, help me. My parents abandoned me. Tommy's voice was thin and shaky. I cried out, forgetting myself. Tommy. It's okay, Grandma's here. I rushed to Tommy, trying to free him from the cross. But the ropes were tied tightly and wouldn't come loose easily. Stay calm. I need to call for help first. With shaking hands, I took out my cell phone and dialed 911. It's an emergency. My 3-year-old grandson, he's being abused. Please send an ambulance and police right away. As I gave the operator the address, I kept talking to Tommy. Tommy, it's all right now. Grandma's here. I won't leave you. Tommy's body was cold, and he seemed to be suffering from dehydration. Water. I need to give him water. I rushed to the kitchen to get a glass of water. But what I saw there shocked me again. Used syringes were scattered in the sink. Could it be drugs? A terrifying speculation crossed my mind. But Tommy was the priority now. As I gave Tommy water little by little, I gently stroked his body. Tommy, take it slow. Just breathe deeply. I could hear sirens approaching. The ambulance and police had arrived. Over here. Hurry. I called out, rushing to the front door to guide the paramedics in. 3-year-old male, visually impaired. Suspected dehydration and malnutrition, the paramedic quickly assessed the situation and began working to rescue Tommy. A police officer started questioning me. Do you know how long your grandson has been in this condition? I couldn't get in touch with them for 3 days. It was only today that I told them all the information I knew, fighting back tears. Tommy was placed on a stretcher and carried to the ambulance. They let me ride along. Tommy, Grandma's here. We're going to the hospital. You're safe now, I said, holding Tommy's small hand tightly in the ambulance. As the ambulance sped towards the hospital with its siren blaring, I prayed. God, please save this child. And Daryl and Mel, where on earth are they? In the ambulance racing to the hospital with sirens blaring, questions kept surfacing and disappearing in my mind. What would become of us now? What about Tommy's future? And where had Daryl and Mel gone? While all the answers weren't clear yet, one thing was certain. I would protect Tommy no matter what happens. In the hospital waiting room, I continued answering questions from the police officers. Tommy was receiving intensive care. Mrs. Robbins, when was the last time you had contact with your son and his wife? Detective Johnson asked calmly. 3 days ago. Daryl called and said they were going away for work. My voice trembled. Now it was clear that the phone call had been a lie. Daryl, why did you lie? Just then, another officer hurried over. Detective Johnson, we've gathered statements from the neighbors. They started talking a short distance away. I strained to listen. Frequent arguments between the couple recently. Strange noises late at night. Saw the man loading large bags into the car. Oh, why didn't I notice? Suburban community life might seem privacy-oriented, but surprisingly, there are strong connections between residents. Everyone had sensed something was off. Mrs. Robbins, Detective Johnson returned. Could we have photos of your son and his wife? We'll issue a nationwide warrant. His words made reality sink in heavily. They've run away, haven't they? The detective nodded quietly. It's likely they were involved with drugs. We found evidence in the house. Drugs, oh, Daryl. Sadness, anger, and regret filled my heart. Over the next few days, the investigation progressed rapidly. I went back and forth between the hospital and Daryl's house, cooperating with the police while praying for Tommy's recovery. An emergency residence meeting was held at the local community center. I attended too. Everyone, thank you for your cooperation, Detective Johnson began. We're still tracking the whereabouts of Mr. and Mrs. Robbins, but haven't found them yet. Sighs escaped from the audience. But there must be something we can do, Mrs. Sarah, who lived next door, stood up. Let's start a fundraising campaign. For Tommy's medical expenses. Yes, and let's make flyers for the search too, another resident agreed. I looked around at everyone's faces, tears in my eyes. Everyone, thank you. I felt the strength of American community spirit. People unite in times of difficulty. That night, I returned home exhausted. When I turned on the TV, the local news was reporting on Daryl and Mel's case. The whereabouts of Mr. and Mrs. Robbins, suspected of drug trafficking, remain unknown. The abuse of their 3-year-old son. The doorbell rang, startling me as I headed to the entrance. When I opened the door, Mr. and Mrs. Taylor from across the street were standing there. "Jewel, are you all right? We brought you dinner." Mrs. Taylor held out a warm pot. "We all made it together. We want you to stay strong." Their kindness made me break down in tears. "Thank you, really, thank you." Mr. Taylor said quietly, "Jewel, you're not alone. We're here for you." That night, neighbors kept visiting, bringing food and words of encouragement. I made a vow in my heart. "Tommy, I will protect you no matter what." And I must face Daryl calmly. The next morning, I was awakened by a call from the hospital. "Mrs. Robbins, your grandson has regained consciousness." Those words brought a ray of hope. As I hurried to the hospital, my phone rang. It was Detective Johnson. "Mrs. Robbins, we've received important information. Daryl's location." My heart raced. The time had come for the truth to be revealed. "Daryl, you'll tell me everything, won't you?" "I'm ready to listen." When I arrived at the hospital, Detective Johnson was waiting in the hallway. "I heard your grandson has regained consciousness. Let's go there first. Then we'll talk in detail about the ongoing investigation." I took a deep breath and headed to Tommy's room. Whatever truth awaited us, we would overcome it. As a family, and as members of the community. In the interrogation room at the police station, I sat on a hard chair, staring at Daryl's figure through the glass in front of me. "My son, why?" Daryl had turned himself into the police a few hours ago. Mel was nowhere to be seen. Detective Johnson quietly spoke to me. "Mrs. Robbins, are you ready?" I nodded silently. The door opened and Daryl came in. Seeing him, emotions clashed violently within me. Anger, sadness, and love. "Mom." Daryl's voice was thin and shaky. "Why, Daryl?" "Tommy is your son." My voice was surprisingly calm, even to myself. Daryl raised his face and looked at me with tearful eyes. I'm the worst father. I couldn't protect Tommy." He took a deep breath and began to talk. "It all started 3 years ago when I met Mel. She was charming, and I was infatuated. But she had a dark side." Daryl confessed to financial difficulties and his dependence on Mel. After marriage, they found out that Mel's wealthy family background was a lie, and their debts snowballed. When Tommy was born, we panicked. Caring for a disabled child, high medical expenses. Daryl's voice choked. "Mel said, if we sell drugs, we can make money in one go." "Oh, Daryl." At first, I refused. But we were being chased by debt collectors. We couldn't even pay for Tommy's treatments. Daryl's voice shook. I listened, holding my breath. It was supposed to be just once. But when the money started coming in, we were blinded by greed. He covered his face with both hands. Mel gradually became cruel. She started saying, "Tommy is a burden." Anger welled up in my chest. That woman, I can't forgive her. One day, Mel started giving drugs to Tommy. At Daryl's words, I stood up involuntarily. "What did you say?" Detective Johnson placed his hand on my shoulder, quietly urging me to sit down. Daryl continued, tears streaming down his face. "I couldn't stop her. I was a coward. I just did whatever Mel said." He looked up, staring straight at me. "But that day, when I saw Tommy being tied to the cross, I came to my senses. I tried to stop Mel. But she knocked me down and ran away. I noticed the bruise on my son's face. I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't help Tommy, and I ran away." Daryl's voice choked. "But my conscience kept tormenting me. That's why I decided to turn myself in." Silence filled the room. I was shaken by complex emotions. Anger, sadness, and a faint sense of relief. At least he told the truth. "Daryl," I called out quietly. "What you did is unforgivable." Daryl's shoulders slumped. "But," I continued, "thank you for turning yourself in. This was necessary, for Tommy's sake too." He looked up at me with surprise. "Mom, you must pay for your crimes. But when that's over, we'll raise Tommy together." A glimmer of hope appeared in Daryl's eyes. "Really? Is there still a chance for someone like me?" I answered, maintaining a stern expression. "It won't be easy. It will take a long time to regain trust. But, you're my son. And Tommy's father." Detective Johnson quietly spoke up. "Mrs. Robbins, let's end the conversation here. Daryl, can you tell us more about Mel's whereabouts?" I stood up and looked at Daryl one last time. "Do your best. Tell them the whole truth." Daryl nodded tearfully. As I left the room, my heart was filled with complex emotions. Anger and sadness, and a faint hope. It's going to be a long journey. But as a family, we'll definitely overcome this. As I left the police station, I looked up at the sky. No matter how dark the night, morning always comes. With that belief in my heart, I started walking forward. The news of Mel's arrest came a week after Daryl turned himself in. Suspect Mel Robbins has been arrested near the Mexican border, the TV announced. I sighed with relief in front of the television. Finally. On the day of the trial, I walked to the courthouse holding Tommy's hand tightly. His eyesight had improved a little, and he could now walk using a cane. As we entered the courtroom, there was a palpable tension in the air. The prosecutor and Mel's defense lawyer were each preparing their cases. The judge entered, and the court proceedings began. Defendant, Mel Robbins. You are charged with child abuse and drug trafficking, the judge announced. Mel stood expressionless. When I took the witness stand, I recounted the events of that day with a shaking voice. Remembering the horrific sight of Tommy crucified, tears welled up. Objection. Mel's lawyer stood up. This testimony is appealing to emotions. Overruled, the judge calmly declared. Next, Daryl took the stand. He couldn't raise his face and began speaking with his head bowed. Mel married me for inheritance purposes. A shock ran through the courtroom. Daryl tearfully narrated the story from his meeting with Mel to their involvement in drug trafficking. Then he revealed the details of Tommy's abuse. Mel called Tommy a nuisance and gave him drugs. I closed my eyes involuntarily. It was an unbearable truth. As evidence, drugs found in Daryl's house and Tommy's medical records were presented. Finally, the prosecutor stood up. The defendant, Mel Robbins, abused the most vulnerable child and trampled on his innocent soul. She should receive the harshest punishment. The time for the verdict came. Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict? Yes, the jury foreman stood up. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Mel Robbins, guilty on all charges. A sense of relief swept through the courtroom. The judge pronounced the sentence with a solemn expression. Mel Robbins, I sentence you to 25 years in prison for child abuse and drug trafficking. I hugged Tommy tightly. It's over, Tommy. Everything's going to be okay now. Tommy nodded slightly. As we left the courtroom, I turned back to look at Mel. She was being led away by officers, her expression still cold. I wonder if she truly regrets what she's done. As we stepped outside, the media had gathered. Mrs. Robbins, please give us a comment, they called out. I took a deep breath before answering. Justice has prevailed. But this isn't the end. The journey to rebuild our family has only just begun. Holding Tommy's hand, we walked through the crowd of reporters. The real battle starts now. But we'll definitely overcome it. The evening sky seemed to shine with the promise of new hope. 3 months after the trial, I officially obtained custody of Tommy. Congratulations, Mrs. Robbins, the social worker said with a smile. You are now Tommy's legal guardian. I hugged Tommy, fighting back tears. Tommy, from now on, we'll be together. I'll always be by your side. Tommy nodded slightly. His eyes were slowly regaining their light. With proper medical care, Tommy's eyesight gradually improved. He continues rehabilitation under the guidance of specialists. Tommy's recovery is miraculous, Dr. Thompson told me after an examination. While it might be difficult for him to regain full vision, there's a good chance he'll recover to a level where he can manage daily life without major issues. Those words filled my heart with hope. Tommy, you have a bright future ahead of you. To solve our financial problems, I made a big decision. I decided to sell the house I had lived in for many years and move to a town near where my daughter Linda lives. Mom, are you sure about this? Linda asked worriedly. Yes, let's all work hard together in this new environment, I answered with a smile. On moving day, the neighbors gathered to see us off. Jewel, we'll miss you, Mrs. Taylor said, tearing up. But I'm sure this is the best choice for you and Tommy. I nodded deeply. Everyone, thank you so much. Without your support, we couldn't have made it this far. Our new life in the new town began. It's a small apartment, but it's a new home for Tommy and me. Linda and her family visit frequently. Come on, Tommy. Let's go to the park with your aunt, Linda calls out gently. Tommy's smiles gradually increased. Adjusting to the new environment wasn't easy, but by participating in local support groups, we were able to move forward little by little. Sarah, whom I met at the Parents Group for Visually Impaired Children, told me, America has wonderful support systems. Let's explore them together. Encouraged by her words, I discovered various support programs for Tommy. We also decided on a special needs school for him to attend. Tommy, what do you think? Does the new school seem fun? I asked on our way back from visiting the school. Yes, everyone was nice. I wonder if I'll make friends. Tommy's voice had a hint of hope in it. Ah, this child's life is just beginning. I visit Daryl once a month in prison. He's participating in a rehabilitation program and sincerely reflecting on his actions. Mom, how's Tommy doing? Daryl asked hesitantly in the visiting room. He's doing better, slowly but surely, I answered quietly. Someday, will I be allowed to see Tommy? A pleading look appeared in Daryl's eyes. That day will come. But it still needs time, I replied. Our journey has only just begun. There are many challenges ahead, but there's just as much hope. That night, as I was putting Tommy to bed, I made a vow. No matter what happens, I'll protect this child and make him happy. That's my mission. Outside the window, the lights of our new town shone warmly. It was as if they were blessing the start of our new life.